Hey friends, welcome back to Homeschool-ology. If you're new here, my name is Nikki. I'm a homeschooling mom of 4. I've got a 7th grader all the way down to a preschooler. And on this channel, I like to talk about secular homeschooling, motherhood, and everything in between. Today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you about how to start up a co-op. So, sorry for the crummy lighting. We live in Florida and it is about 4 o'clock here, which means it's about to rain. If you don't know, if you have never visited Florida, you can pretty much bet every day in the summer around 4 o'clock you're gonna get some rain. And so, sorry it's a little dark and gloomy. Hopefully it'll brighten up here in a minute. So as I mentioned, today's video I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to start up a co-op. So we had been a part of a co-op before the whole pandemic happened, and it was really wonderful. It was really a game changer in our homeschooling as far as like getting out, meeting people, learning about new resources, all that great stuff. And so of course, during the pandemic, it had lapsed. A lot of the people who were running the co-op, their kids aged out or they started doing something different. And so I really wanted to get it back up and going. And the one thing I said was, I don't want to be the president. I don't want to be the person in charge. And I'm the person in charge. But it's okay, and I'm really glad that I'm doing it actually, because it is something that has been so special in our homeschooling journey, and I'm hoping I can help, you know, that by starting it back up we can help other people who are coming behind us have that same sense of community, because that really is so important when you're homeschooling, is having a sense of community. And a co-op also gives kids opportunities to learn from somebody else or socialize, or there's so many great components of it. So I guess I should kind of back up here and talk about what is a co-op. So co-op basically stands for cooperative, and it's basically a cooperative group of parents teaching their children. So working together as a team. So co-ops can look very, very vastly different, and they come in all shapes and sizes. You have your kind of standard now that this is not a secular group, but classical conversations is kind of like what a lot of people think of when they think of co-op, and that's a very like structured, like they have these specific lessons and these specific things that are taught, and it's kind of almost like a mini school that only meets a couple days a week. We obviously have never been a part of it, but that's my understanding from what I've heard, and we know people who have done classical conversations before, and that's kind of what that is. So you can have something like that is super structured and almost like a school that you go to a couple days a week, all the way down to a very, very, very loose co-op, one that we used to do back when my middle daughter was younger. That group of friends, we developed a kind of like a science co-op, and we basically met at a different park each week, and one week one mom was in charge, the next week the next mom was in charge, and we just kind of like rotated through who was in charge of running the activity, and it was just some science-based activity that we did outdoors. It can be very structured all the way down to something that's very loose and gentle and easy, and anywhere in between. The co-op that we are doing right now is kind of in the middle of that. We do have separate classes per age level. There are different teachers per age level, but it is more it's not, this is what you learn the first semester when you're a 6th grader, this is what you learn the first semester when you're a 3rd grader. It's not that like laid out. The subjects change each month. It's more of an enrichment co-op, so we're not teaching things like the classes may be English language arts, or it may be a math class, or it may be a science class, but for the most part it's more of an enrichment environment, and focusing on just kind of like getting together with other homeschoolers and learning in different ways and learning from different people, and that kind of approach. So starting up a co-op, to start up that one that I was telling you about before, where we just met at a different park each week, we were already having weekly park play dates, and we were just like, hey, you know, they are approaching preschool age, maybe we should start doing some activities. I think that would be really fun. I think it actually started, we did a busy bag exchange. If you've never done that before, like every mom will make a busy bag, but instead of just making one, you make 10 of them, and then you get together and you switch with 10 other moms, and then everybody has 10 different busy bags, and you only had to make basically one 10 times. So that's a really cool thing. If you have little ones, definitely plan that with your mom friends, because that's kind of where the idea was born out of. We had that busy bag exchange, and then we were like, hey, maybe we do activities with the kids all together at our weekly park dates, and that's kind of how that evolved. And it never was more than that. It was just, we would meet at a park, one person would be in charge of an activity, we would do the activity, and then the kids would play and moms would socialize. You can start slow and you can change things as you go. I highly recommend, if you're gonna start having a large co-op, like this co-op that I'm talking about used to be 50 families, it is now 20 families, because we're starting back up. We have a whole new board, getting things back up and going. We needed to start small. So it's 20 families right now. If you're getting that big, I highly suggest going ahead and starting that nonprofit. It's not that difficult, and it will just keep things easier, especially when you start dealing with like money. Like, it is a fee to participate. It is a fee to participate because we are renting a space, and so once you start handling all that, it's a good idea to go ahead and file for that nonprofit. And then beyond that, it's really just kind of, because it's a cooperative, you're going to meet with the parents and find out what the needs are, and talk about how you're going to meet those needs. And it's really just that simple. A co-op is just working with other parents to create a learning environment for your kiddos. Co-ops have been such an enrichment to our homeschool, just from being able to have my kids be around other kids and get some socialization in, and having a place for mom to be able to talk to other moms and have other adult interactions. If you are a stay-at-home mom, whether you homeschool or not, you know what I'm talking about. Those adult interactions are important. So being able to, just have those things are already so enriching and helpful to our homeschool. But my kids really have learned a ton from this co-op. They've taken classes from cooking classes and baking classes to macrame, which are all kind of like enrichment things. But then they've had classes like history and science, and they did a fairy tales class where they learned about fairy tales from all over the world, which was really, really awesome. And just all kinds of classes that are so enriching to their learning. It's not necessarily what we're doing at home, where we're doing, kind of like the basics at home. That this is just giving them an enriched enriched learning in an environment that is not home, that is not mom. It's another teacher that's teaching them, somebody else. They learn how to interact with somebody else and learn from somebody else. They learn how to interact with their peers. Ours co-op is a classroom setting, so they learn the things like raising your hand when you need to ask a question, or not talking when somebody else is talking, and just all of those things they have learned through being involved in this co-op. So whether you're gonna start one that's super simple, and honestly, start that way. Don't go the 50 families nonprofit route first. If you want to start one, I highly suggest just getting together with a group of friends each week at a park and teaching a different lesson each week. If you have a large age range of kids and enough parents to do it, then maybe try having 2 separate activities, one for the smalls and one for the bigs. And then as it grows, once you start needing an inside place, then I do think you should probably want to look at starting a nonprofit, just to kind of cover those legal bases. And it's really not as complicated as it seemed. It is work. Like, it is a lot of work. I highly suggest, you are going to need a board. You are going to need a group of parents in charge of making decisions and doing the work, because it is a lot of work, especially when you have a larger co-op with multiple classes. You've got to schedule all that, make sure you have the right coverage, the right amount of volunteers. Our co-op has a volunteer requirement. You have to volunteer as a parent to have your child be a part of it. And it does require a fee, because we are paying to rent our space. So you can have a structured co-op like that. But if you're going to start one, I highly suggest just starting a group of friends at the park, or, in the past, we've never done this one, but in the past I've known of people here who have like rotated to each family's house. So one mom would host and do the activity at her house one week, then the next mom would host and do the activity at her house, and so on and so forth. So you can start out super small like that, and I highly suggest starting that way. And then as you evolve, then you can start looking at filing that nonprofit, looking for a rental space. Churches, believe it or not, even if you're secular, churches can sometimes be a good place to look for rental spaces, because they're only using their spaces on Sundays. They're not using it during the week, and they often have multiple classrooms that will be available to you, especially if you're going to have multiple classes. That's kind of the setup that we have. Other good places are like YMCAs or Boys and Girls Clubs that might have spaces to rent out. If there is a place like our city, you can rent like not convention centers, but little like centers. So maybe something like that. Those are a little bit more challenging because their schedules, like that, you might not be able to get it every week, but things like that are good places to start looking for places to hold your group. So I think that's all I have for you guys today. If you have any other questions about starting a co-op or running a co-op, go ahead and head on down and comment down below. I would either be happy to make another video for you addressing those or just answer your questions. You can always DM me over at Instagram at Homeschool-ology and follow our journey over there as well. While you are here, I hope you will head on down and subscribe to this channel, ring that notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. And I will talk to you guys again real soon. Bye.